Growing up in the 1950s, it was common knowledge that almost everyone had either served in World War II in the armed forces or had supported the war effort back home. For every person who served in uniform in the front lines, there were probably 15 or 20 people working behind them to provide the weapons, the ammunition, the equipment, the training, the intelligence, and other support that they needed to succeed. I learned from my parents and grandparents that the people back home all supported the war effort in various ways. They either worked in defense plants, or they raised money for war bonds, or volunteered for civil defense duty. Everyone knew about food and gas rationing, the wheatless and meatless days, and even children collected scrap iron and started victory gardens to support the war effort. Almost every house on the block had a Blue Star pennant hanging in the window, signifying that a member of the family was serving the armed forces. Many houses had a Gold Star pennant, indicating that a member of the family had given their life for their country. Today we have many official memorials commemorating the service of our armed forces in time of war, but these memorials do not tell the personal stories of hardship, of sacrifice, and of heroism. And as the years pass, the people who experience these things firsthand pass on. With their passing, we as a society have less knowledge and understanding and appreciation of what they went through. We may not remember the great sacrifices made by our fellow citizens in time of war. The Veterans History Project, created by Congress in 2000, tries to capture the unique and personal firsthand stories of our citizens who served and sacrificed during wartime, so that current and future generations understand the terrible price of war and appreciate what our fellow citizens did in the service of our country. Through the efforts of volunteers, it collects, preserves, and makes accessible the personal accounts of American war veterans, as well as the accounts of civilians who were actively involved in the war effort. Over the past 3 years, the Lake County Veterans History Project has interviewed over 70 war veterans on Veterans Day here at the Lake County Courthouse. By telling their personal stories, these veterans continue to serve our country by educating future generations of Americans.
The Veterans History Project has been very successful and well received, not only because of the participation of the veterans, but also because of the many community volunteers that donated their time, money, and effort to the project. A local farmer donated much of the food, and court reporters from Lake County and the surrounding counties donated their time to transcribe the interviews of these brave veterans. There were local attorneys, prosecutors, and public defenders that came in on a court holiday to interview the veterans. The Lake County Bar Association and its members, the Marine Corps League, along with the Young Marines, and a host of private citizens all worked together to ensure that this day was both successful and enjoyable. It is truly a remarkable feat that the community comes together like this on an annual basis to ensure that these veterans get the recognition they so richly deserve, and that their stories are not forgotten. Finally, each veteran received a challenge coin commemorating his participation in this historic event.
This past Veterans Day in Lake County, a total of 32 veterans were interviewed. All the services were represented: Army, Army Air Corps, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and even a civilian worker at Great Lakes Naval Hospital. There were veterans of World War II, Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Several saw significant combat. Several were injured in battle. Many medals were received, including the Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Distinguished Flying Cross, Combat Infantry Badge, and the Vietnam Cross of Gallantry. Most of the veterans that were interviewed were enlisted. Only a handful of officer veterans were present. There were both male and female veterans. Many were Army and Marine Corps infantry veterans, but also represented were sailors aboard ship, field artillery, Seabees, combat divers, Army combat nurses, military police, motor transport, helicopter pilots, bomber pilots and aircrew over Europe and Japan. A female civilian social worker who aided several wounded service members at Great Lakes Naval Hospital was also interviewed. Their personal stories are a snapshot of the country's experiences over much of the 20th century. From those who lived through the Great Depression or were part of the baby boom, when their country called, they responded. Veterans related, among many other things, the attack on Pearl Harbor, convoy duty in the Atlantic, air battle over Europe, the land battle for Europe, including Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, accompanying Patton across the continent, meeting Russian troops at the Elbe River, the defense of Midway Island, island hopping in the South Pacific, the naval battle at Leyte Gulf, surviving the sinking of the aircraft carrier USS Princeton, fighting in the Philippines, Okinawa, service on the Aleutian Islands, the amphibious landing in Korea at Incheon, the survival of the Red Chinese attack in the Chosin Reservoir, Da Nang, the Tet Offensive, and Khe Sanh. Not only are their stories their personal experiences, they are key parts of the history of our country and of our armed forces. They did their duty with honor and humility. It was our privilege to meet them and their families and to record their contributions to our country.
As a younger person, I used to hang out at the water purifying plant in the town. And I saw these Navy magazines, and I picked one up, and I saw these sailors and ships, and I got the idea much earlier. And I knew I was going to go in the Navy. Well, in those days, you must remember, it was the Depression was on. And it was really some place to sleep, some place to eat, with pay. You couldn't beat that.
The reason I joined the Army was I'd rather see the war over there than here. And I worried about the family.
February 19th, my birthday, started what they called in Europe the big week. And it wasn't to celebrate my birthday. They were good. The major maximum effort, that means every plane that is flyable is going to go. Maximum effort missions every day.
So there we were. We were exposed. The ships were open. Most of the ships were getting ready for inspection the Monday morning. No watertight integrity. I heard the alarm. I didn't pay any attention to it. I took my time because it was just another drill to me. So I got out of my bunk, went up there, went all the way back. And when I got to top side, they were like bees. I could see the pilot just as plain as I'm looking at you, coming right up the channel. I was on the flying bridge. I was up here. The plane was down. I could see the expression on his face.
We were captured by what they call the Volkssturm. Our first prison camp was in East Prussia on the Baltic Ocean. We asked him why in the hell. It took us forever in this boxcar. No bathroom, no water. We got a chunk of bread like that thick every other day. Anybody that was a prisoner in Germany that was moved at all lost at least a third of their weight. But when I got to Oxford, England, to a hospital, I weighed 98 pounds.
Of course, I didn't mention the site of Buchenwald. That was one of the camps where the Germans got rid of the Jewish population. They had bodies all over the place, just piled up like it was a pile of coal. But you're going to find most of the guys, they won't talk about the war. And that's the way I was for over 50 years.
We buried an old Navy veteran today. Unlike the poem, the USS Oklahoma veteran, not all combat-killed Americans are buried where family can go to visit and remember. No one can visit Donald Robert McLeod, but he is not forgotten. If money spends in heaven, someday Chief Petty Officer Joseph Triolo, U.S. Navy retired, will repay his friend $2.
Yeah.